I'm Dr. Vivian Cole, a urologist specializing in male performance, and I am consistently astounded by the number of men who are quietly risking their cardiovascular health with black market pills when one of the most potent, scientifically documented neurovascular modulators is sitting in their spice cabinet right now. We are conditioned to believe that rapid results require synthetic chemicals. But clinical pharmacology reveals that certain raw, active compounds, when administered through the correct biological pathway, can trigger an immediate, powerful physiological response. Today, I am going to explain the exact biological mechanism behind why placing one specific, highly concentrated spice directly under your tongue can drastically alter your localized blood flow and neurological stamina in a matter of minutes. I want to speak directly to you for a moment. If you're over 40 and you have experienced that terrifying, frustrating moment where everything is going fine, but suddenly you lose your firmness mid-act, or you struggle to get fully ready despite wanting to, you are likely blaming your testosterone or your age. I hear this daily. Nearly 60% of the men who consult with me arrive convinced their plumbing is broken, completely unaware that their actual problem is neurological static shutting down their vascular system. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why this disconnect happens and how a remarkably simple, targeted intervention can force those localized pathways back open. The root of this issue requires a deep understanding of how your body actually initiates and maintains an erection. It is not just a hydraulic event, it is a highly sensitive neurovascular cascade. Your nervous system has two main gears. The parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest, digest, and arouse state, and the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight survival state. In order for an erection to occur, your parasympathetic nervous system must be completely in the driver's seat. It sends a calm, powerful signal to the smooth muscle cells lining your penile arteries, commanding them to relax and let the blood flood in. The catastrophic problem for modern men is that chronic stress, poor sleep, and the general anxiety of life keep the sympathetic nervous system constantly engaged. Even a microdose of stress, or the sudden anxious thought of, will I be able to perform tonight, triggers a tiny spike in cortisol and adrenaline. The moment adrenaline hits your bloodstream, your sympathetic nervous system takes over and instantly commands your peripheral blood vessels to tightly constrict. It is a biological survival mechanism. Your body is redirecting blood away from the extremities and erectile tissue, saving it for the vital organs to fight a perceived threat. You can have the highest testosterone levels on the planet, but if your sympathetic nervous system is firing, those localized microvessels will shut down like a bank vault. This is exactly why relying solely on conventional performance medications is often a profoundly disappointing experience for men dealing with this specific neurovascular block. Those medications are designed to artificially force vasodilation. They act purely on the mechanics of the blood vessels, but they do absolutely nothing to quiet the hyperactive nerve signals that are screaming at those same vessels to constrict. It creates a brutal biological tug-of-war. The pill is trying to force the door open, while your nervous system is desperately trying to pull it shut. This is why men often experience flushed faces, pounding headaches, and a racing heart from these pills, yet still lose their erection halfway through the experience. You are treating the hydraulic symptom while ignoring the neurological root cause. To actually resolve this, we have to intervene at the level of the peripheral nerve endings while simultaneously encouraging localized vascular relaxation. And this brings us to the fascinating clinical application of Syzygium aromaticum, commonly known as the clove. We often think of cloves as nothing more than a baking spice or a holiday fragrance, but in the realm of clinical phytochemistry, cloves are recognized as one of the most concentrated sources of a compound called eugenol. Eugenol is a profound, biologically active molecule. When introduced to the human body, it acts as both a natural calcium channel modulator and a rapid peripheral nerve calmer. In plain clinical terms, it slightly numbs the hyperreactive nerve endings that cause premature signals while simultaneously signaling the smooth muscle inside your blood vessels to release their tension. It effectively turns down the volume of that sympathetic nervous system static, allowing the parasympathetic signal to finally get through and command the vessels to dilate. But here's the critical error almost everyone makes when trying to use natural compounds. The delivery mechanism is entirely wrong. If you simply chew up a clove and swallow it, or drink it in a tea, you are sending that highly active eugenol directly into your stomach acid and then into your liver. Your liver acts as a massive chemical filter in a process known as first-pass metabolism. It identifies the eugenol, breaks it down, and metabolizes the vast majority of it before it ever reaches your systemic circulation. By the time it clears your liver, the active clinical dose is virtually zero. You get the taste, but none of the biological benefit. The intervention that changes everything involves a completely different biological pathway: sublingual absorption. The area directly under your tongue, the sublingual mucosa, is incredibly thin and densely packed with thousands of microscopic capillaries that lead directly into your systemic bloodstream, completely bypassing the destructive digestive tract and the liver's first-pass metabolism. When you take a single, high-quality whole clove, lightly crack it with your front teeth just enough to release the concentrated essential oils, and then tuck it securely under your tongue, you are initiating a rapid transdermal delivery system. You will almost immediately feel a strong, warm, tingling sensation, followed by a slight numbing effect in the mouth. That is the active eugenol rapidly crossing the mucous membrane and entering your bloodstream intact. Within minutes of this sublingual absorption, the intact eugenol begins circulating. Because it bypassed the liver, it retains its potency as it reaches the peripheral nervous system and the localized vascular tissue. It begins to gently modulate the calcium channels in the smooth muscle of the penile arteries, reducing the rigidity caused by stress and tension. Simultaneously, it exerts a mild calming effect on the peripheral nerve signals, reducing the hypersensitivity that often leads to rapid performance loss. It is a dual-action, rapid response intervention that creates the exact neurovascular environment required for reliable, sustained firmness. You hold it there for 10 to 15 minutes prior to when you need to perform, allowing the active compounds to fully absorb and alter your baseline physiological state. If this breakdown of advanced biological delivery systems and neurovascular signaling is shifting your perspective on male health, I strongly suggest you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Bringing this level of precise clinical strategy out of the medical journals and into your hands is exactly why this channel exists. While utilizing sublingual eugenol is an incredibly effective rapid-action protocol for a specific evening, we have to look at the broader, long-term implications of why you need it in the first place. When your neurovascular signaling is chronically misfiring due to stress, and your microvessels are constantly being commanded to constrict, you are facing a much larger issue than just a frustrating night in the bedroom. The microvessels in the erectile tissue are the proverbial canaries in the coal mine for your entire cardiovascular system. They are the smallest, most delicate vessels you have. If chronic stress and neurological static are keeping them tightly constricted, they are being deprived of regular, healthy blood flow and oxygen. Over time, tissue that is deprived of oxygen begins to physically change. The smooth muscle loses its elasticity. The endothelial lining becomes dysfunctional. What starts as a temporary neurological block eventually becomes permanent structural vascular damage. The men I see in their 60s and 70s who have completely lost their natural function almost always started with intermittent, stress-induced failures in their 40s that they simply ignored or tried to mask with synthetic pills. Addressing the root cause of this neurovascular disconnect is not an overnight process, and it requires more than a kitchen spice. For a significant portion of my career, I was a strict traditionalist. I completely dismissed the use of botanical extracts or complex nutritional formulations, viewing them as unregulated noise that distracted from solid pharmaceutical science. I preferred to write a prescription and move on. But clinical reality is an excellent teacher. I had a growing subset of patients, highly driven, stressed men in their mid to late 40s, who were suffering from this exact neurovascular collapse. They had the physical capacity, but their nervous systems were entirely hijacked. The standard blue pills gave them terrible side effects and failed to prevent them from losing their erections mid-act because the pills couldn't stop the stress signaling. I needed a way to lower the neurological static while maintaining continuous, natural vasodilation, day in and day out, not just right before an intimate encounter. This specific, frustrating gap in treatment forced me to dive deeply into the clinical data on advanced, standardized extractions. I began analyzing specific compounds that could fundamentally rebuild that brain-to-body connection. The formulation I eventually integrated into my clinical protocol relies on highly specific mechanisms. It utilizes standardized epimedium, which acts as a powerful, natural inhibitor of the PDE5 enzyme. This allows the vascular pathways to remain relaxed and open, closely mimicking the mechanism of conventional medications, but without the harsh systemic side effects. Crucially, it combines this with potent extracts of maca, a compound heavily researched for its unique ability to regulate the central hormonal axis, directly calming the stress response in the brain and strengthening the parasympathetic signal sent down to the localized tissue. When you combine a natural PDE5 inhibitor to open the vessels with a central nervous system modulator to clear the static, you restore the entire neurovascular chain. The clinical observations in my practice have been undeniable. Specifically, in men between the ages of 45 and 52, often the peak years for career and lifestyle stress, I consistently see a dramatic return of reliable, sustained performance within a 3 to 5 week window. The anxiety of losing firmness vanishes because the nervous system is no longer fighting the body. I meticulously verify the lab testing and purity standards of these compounds to ensure absolute clinical safety. I have placed the link to the exact scientifically formulated protocol I recommend for this specific issue in the pinned comment below, allowing you to review the clinical data and the specific extraction methods for yourself. Tell me in the comments, have you ever noticed that your performance drops the exact moment you feel a slight bit of mental stress or distraction? I read the comments closely because understanding your specific triggers is the first step to reversing them. The plasticity of your neurovascular pathways is remarkable, meaning they have a profound capacity to heal and reconnect. But that biological window is highly sensitive to time. The longer your brain associates intimacy with stress, failure, and vascular constriction, the faster that delicate tissue atrophies from a lack of regular engorgement. The targeted nutritional protocol I outlined is designed to integrate into your daily routine, providing the sustained structural support that a temporary sublingual hack simply cannot offer long-term. The link to review the clinical details is in the pinned comment. The difference between treating a fleeting symptom and permanently restoring your biological youth is simply having the courage to address the root cause of the degradation today.